If you've ever left a conversation feeling confused or doubting yourself, it might not have been an accident. Confusion is one of the most effective tools manipulators use, and the moment you can name the pattern, it starts to lose its power. These aren't labels to use against people, they're patterns to recognize so you can stay grounded when things feel unclear. This video breaks down the patterns manipulators rely on, so confusion starts to feel obvious instead of overwhelming. I'm Stephen Walters, and I help people stay calm and grounded in a noisy world without becoming reactive or cynical. Let's start with the one that causes the most damage and often goes unnoticed in everyday conversations. Point number 1, gaslighting, questioning your reality. Gaslighting is when someone repeatedly makes you doubt your own memory, perception, or judgment, not through logic, not through evidence, but through confidence and repetition. They'll say things like, "That never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're too sensitive." And over time, something subtle happens. You stop trusting yourself, and you start relying on them to tell you what's real. Here's the key that most people miss. Gaslighting isn't about winning an argument. It's about owning the narrative. The moment you can quietly say to yourself, "This is gaslighting," the spell weakens, because confusion is their power and clarity breaks it. And that clarity matters because once you stop second-guessing yourself, you stop over-explaining, defending, and replaying the conversation later in your head. You regain mental energy that was being spent on doubt instead of decisions. I've taught communications for years, and this pattern shows up more often than people realize. And once you see gaslighting clearly, there's a more aggressive pattern that often comes next. Point number 2, DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. DARVO is a 3-step response that manipulators use when they're confronted. First, they deny what happened. Then, they attack you for bringing it up. And finally, they reverse roles, positioning themselves as the victim and you as the offender. So instead of addressing your concern, you're suddenly defending your character. You might hear, "I can't believe you'd accuse me of that. You're always attacking me. I'm the one who's hurt here." Now, here's what matters. DARVO works best when you try to explain yourself. The goal isn't resolution, it's exhaustion. Once you see that, you stop trying to win and start conserving yourself. Once you recognize this pattern, you don't need to chase their version of events. You step out of the loop. And stepping out matters because it keeps you from getting trapped in circular arguments that never resolve anything. You conserve your emotional energy instead of donating it to someone who isn't listening in good faith. But not all manipulation happens face to face. Sometimes it comes through other people. Point number 3, triangulation, using a third person to destabilize you. Triangulation is when someone pulls a third person into the situation to undermine you. They might say, "Other people agree with me. Even your friend said this." Everyone's been noticing. Notice what's missing. Names, details, accountability. Vagueness is part of the tactic. The purpose isn't clarity, it's pressure. Triangulation makes you feel isolated and outnumbered, often without evidence. A grounding question can help here. Ask yourself, is this a conversation or is this a performance? Healthy communication stays between the people involved. Once you stop responding to vague social pressure, you stop making decisions based on fear of disapproval. You return the conversation to facts instead of invisible audiences. And I know you're not an invisible person, and it is definitely worth staying with me here because the last 3 patterns are often what keep people stuck long after the conversation ends. And now, let's talk about a tactic that feels incredible at first until it quietly takes control. Point number 4, love bombing, overwhelming affection to gain control. Love bombing is excessive praise, attention, or affection before trust has been earned. It sounds like, "I've never felt this close to anyone. You're different from everyone else. I can't imagine life without you." Well, at first it feels amazing, but love bombing isn't about connection. It's about dependency. The moment you slow down, set a boundary, or ask for balance, the affection often disappears. That's the signal. Real connection grows steadily. Love bombing explodes and then collapses. Recognizing this early matters because it keeps you from mistaking intensity for compatibility. It allows you to pace yourself instead of being pulled forward faster than your judgment can keep up. This next tactic explains why manipulators so often accuse you of exactly what they're doing. Point number 5, projection, accusing you of their behavior. Projection happens when someone disowns their own behavior and places it onto you. They might accuse you of being controlling, dishonest, selfish, or manipulative, while actively doing these very things. Projection isn't confusion. It's psychological offloading. Instead of dealing with their discomfort, they hand it to you. Here's a simple rule. If an accusation feels wildly off, but emotionally intense, pause. Ask yourself, who is actually behaving this way? You don't need to defend yourself from every accusation. Sometimes the accusation is the evidence. That distinction stops you from internalizing blame that was never yours to carry. You stay anchored in your own behavior instead of reacting to someone else's deflection. Point number 6, minimization, downplaying harm to avoid accountability. Minimization happens when someone acknowledges an issue but deliberately shrinks its importance. They might say things like, "It wasn't that serious. You're making too much of this. That's not a big deal." On the surface, it sounds calm, reasonable, even mature, but the effect is the opposite. When harm is minimized, your experience gets dismissed without being addressed. Over time, you may stop bringing things up at all, not because they stop mattering, but because you were taught they wouldn't be taken seriously. Naming minimization helps you recognize when calm language is being used to avoid responsibility. And here's where knowing the term really matters. Because the next tactic doesn't hurt in the moment, it hurts later. Point 7, circular conversations, keeping you talking without ever resolving anything. Circular conversations happen when discussions loop endlessly without clarity or closure. You explain, they deflect. You clarify, they shift the focus. Nothing gets resolved, but the conversation keeps going. Not because progress is being made, but because momentum is being maintained. Unresolved conversations consume attention long after they end. Recognizing this pattern allows you to disengage instead of continuing to invest time in discussions that are designed to go nowhere. Healthy communication moves toward understanding. Circular conversations keep you spinning. Now that you have the vocabulary, you're no longer reacting blindly. You can spot these traps before confusion turns into self-doubt. Now, which of these patterns help you see something more clearly? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to know exactly what to say when someone tries to intimidate you, you're going to want to watch this next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you online soon.